All right, hi, I'm Mike,
And I'm Brian.
and we're Syrup and Eggs. And today we're going to walk through our maple syrup prep. It is towards the end of December here, and we'll start tapping trees around the end of January, early February, once the temperatures reach those freezing nights and above freezing temperatures during the day. So to get started, we're just going to run through our supplies that we get ready now. So we have our tubing, we got bottles, we got the right size drill bits, and our taps. And the tools we pretty much need for that, you'll need a drill, a hammer, and something to cut your tubing with. Like I use a pocket knife. I think Brian used
I like to use a hose cutter. Makes it nice, clean cut and easy to pop onto the end of the taps.
So we're here at my property today, and we'll walk through how I set my property up. We'll get in some more detail and show you a little bit more about these supplies.
All right, here are the taps we use. We use these and we use some straight stainless steel ones. We're kind of converting to stainless steel because they're easier to get clean. But if you look closely, this is the part that goes into the tree. It's tapered here. It has some grip there. What you do is you take your 5/16 drill bit, because these are 5/16 taps. They do make different sizes, so you would have to get the appropriate drill bit for the tap. You drill it in, I heard, slightly on an uphill, and then you tap it in with your hammer. You drill it in maybe like about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. You could put a piece of tape. We'll have to redo this one so that you don't go too deep. You don't want to get past into the heartwood, okay, because all of the sap is flowing on the outside of the tree area in that sapwood. When you tap these in, you'll be able to hear as you're driving them in. You'll hear the change when it gets seated at the point where the taper is. You'll hear a thud. You'll know that you're done then. And you really got to be careful with the plastic ones, because you could break them off in there, and then it would be hard. You might damage the tree. You connect up the hoses. Well, we also have tees. So if you're going to be tapping some big trees and you want to tee everything into one from one side to the other, you generally try to stay on the sunny side of it, because the tapping of the trees you do in a really cold weather. It has to be below freezing, preferably like 20 degrees or lower at night, and then above freezing in the daytime. So you tap on the sunny side, like the south or western side of the tree, as much as you can. And then you can hook these all together so that you don't have to use, they can all run into a single receptacle, like some sort of a container, if you tee them. And then you use less hose also, because all these things start to get kind of expensive. But year after year, as you accumulate, and if you keep them clean, and that's part of the reason we're going to stainless steel, is because it's easier to keep that stuff clean. So you would hook up your tubing and then run it straight into a bucket. We take buckets with lids, food grade buckets, drill a hole in the lid, seal the lid, and run the tube right in it. And that works out really good for us. All right, so we're using 5/16 taps and tees. So we need 5/16 tubing. Sometimes, so because this is a 5/16 tap, that's 5/16 inside diameter, you have to get the 5/16 ID, inside diameter. If you're just starting out, it can be a little confusing, because you might see 5/16 over here on the OD and pick that up, and you'll never be able to make that work. So you got to have the appropriate size tees and the appropriate size tubing for the taps, because this you're not changing.
Once we have all our supplies, you're going to need something to package your syrup in once we get to that process. Now, there's still plenty of time for that. So these are some bottles we had from last year. These are about 8-ounce jars, and we like using these because they're a little smaller and they give us the ability to share our syrup with our family and friends. So if we had bigger bottles, it makes it a little more difficult because there's just less go around. So we've been saving these and we wash them. My family goes through a lot of syrup. As you can see, this whole box is full. Yeah, I would say this is probably about 75% of the bottles that we save throughout the year. So I will wash these. I'll take the labels off. So some of these are the bigger bottles, but there's some 8-ounce bottles in here too. And we'll reuse that glass to package more syrup in for the season.
Go ahead.
All right, so we're back in the woods right now behind my house. You can see the chicken coops right up there. So we're not too far behind. This is a little bit of a woods here in our suburbs. It's not a very big woods. It's about 2.5 acres. But we have a few maple trees around. I have a lot of wood here from dead ash trees that we have. So once they fall down, I've been cutting them up, and I'll split this wood and we'll use it to fire the evaporators when we do the maple syrup sap in a couple months here. So right now I'm just going to walk around. We have some maple trees that I've marked in the past. I usually just, whatever spray paint's left over, I'll do like a little M so I know they're maple. Because right now you can see there's no leaves, so it's going to be hard to identify if you don't know what they are. There's a few trees down here. Like these are good sized trees. I'm not sure what the actual diameter is, but these are the types of trees I look for when I'm tapping, just so you know that they'll most likely produce. That's another maple. There's this big maple here. I've run 2 taps on that one before. Once they get a certain diameter, you can run more than 1 tap. I'll connect these 2 with the T, so I have 1 bucket for that tree and 1 bucket for that tree. And we can walk up this way. Now this is kind of like a shared space between all our neighbors, and I've asked my neighbors in the past if I can tap their trees. You should always do that just so you're polite. And I also like to offer them some maple syrup if I'm on their property and tapping their trees, because you'll see a bright white bucket in the winter. So here's another one. I marked this one in earlier in the year. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little, just with my pocket knife, just scratched on it, just so I know. And that's a tree. That's a little smaller one, so I wouldn't expect too much from that, but we'll still give it a shot. See, this is a maple tree, but it's kind of thin, so I'm not really interested in tapping this one just yet. We'll let that go for a few more years. Yeah, so this is a maple tree. This is quite a big tree. Pretty knotty, but this just lets you know that this is a maple tree in the wintertime. So it's pretty simple. Just I mark them with an M for maples, not for Mike. Now I know like most people won't have this type of property where you can just walk around in these woods and find trees, but if you're in an area with trees, like my neighbor here has a maple tree in their yard, you could definitely get sap from it. You can't expect to get a ton of syrup from it, because I think the ratio is about 40 gallons of sap to 1 gallon of syrup, so it's quite a large ratio. But that's about it for our prep for maple syrup season. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and let us know if you have any questions, and we'll see you in a few weeks.